Roll Tide, everybody. Things heating up on the recruiting trail for Alabama football. A commitment yesterday and maybe a commitment today. Another guy that they feel really good about. We're going to talk about those guys here on Cover Crimson. Could Alabama eliminate the 8A game? Could that happen? I'm going to tell you why it could, but I don't think it is. Right here on Cover Crimson. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Brought to you by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. Let's get this party started. Good to see you guys, by the way, on a Friday. We made it through the week. Roll Tide. There's Clint Lamb. I'm Mick Gillispie. Good to see you guys. Cover Crimson YouTube here and coming at you live on a Friday. Getting ready for the weekend, man. Everybody's working for the weekend. Remember that song?
I remember it from GTA Vice City. That was a show on the radio station, and me and my brother were actually talking about that recently, how much we loved that some of those radio stations on that old video game. We learned a lot of the music that we love today from those games.
Very interesting. I didn't know that. Guys, please give us a thumbs up. That's a way of saying Roll Tide, like, subscribe. And then, hey, don't forget, sign up for $25 off the annual subscription at covercrimson.com, where we talk a lot of recruiting and we talk Alabama sports, and we do that on a daily basis. All right, Clint, yesterday, Bama got another guy to join Mr. Gibson, Zion Gibson, in the 26 class, and it was Chris Booker. And this guy's kind of he's a high riser, kind of out of nowhere, to a 4-star, according to On3, and I'm sure everybody else will follow. But this is a guy that Coach Cap kind of identified early, really likes. And you put a video out, and look, I know it's not going to be like this in the SEC, but where he's just like, he blocked the guy right out of the film.
When I was watching his tape, man, I mean, he has a lot of plays that stand out to you, but that one, I thought it was so funny because it is the blindside block. He doesn't, I guess, run him all the way out of the back of the end zone. It's more on the sidelines, but he runs him so far into his own bench area that he's got teammates who are standing up closer to the sidelines that are turned around watching him continue to block. The more I watched this kid, because I went and watched him more last night after we hopped off, and I had watched quite a bit of him already. But, you know, you really start diving in once it becomes official. And the more I watch him, the more I like him. You know, I think, you know, On3 already has him as a 4-star player. Some people are going to call that the Bama bump, the timing of it. Go watch his tape, guys. Just watch his tape, and he'll tell you everything you need to know. One of the best athletes along the offensive line that I've seen on tape, and I'm still going through it, but just, I mean, this is comparing past to present too. And, you know, I think he fits what Kalen DeBoer and them were wanting to do. He plays with that nastiness. We already talked about all this stuff, but just the more I watch him, the more I like him. And I think it was a really good get for Alabama. Do I think he's going to be a top 100 prospect before it's all said and done? I mean, it's possible. I doubt it. But, you know, I was talking last night, like kind of in the range I thought is not just a 4-star, but probably, you know, maybe in that JV Cohen top 300. I think Cohen was number 291. You know, when he was coming out, I would probably put, you know, that's kind of where I'd had Brooks potentially going. But the more I watch him, the more I think this guy could crack the top 200. So this is a good get for Alabama. Obviously, they're starting to heat up on the recruiting trail. It's not just him. You got Jaryan Matthews, who is going to be committing at some point today. Andrew Bone with Bama Online and Steve Wiltfong with On3. Both of them have RPM'd Alabama to get Matthews. That's still got to happen, but we'll be talking about him more today. But you got that commitment potentially on the horizon. You've got Bear McCorder coming in about a week, and Alabama's trending in the right direction for him. So they're starting to heat up on the recruiting trail, but this whole process has kind of started with Chris Brooks.
Yeah, very really fun time when you start to get these commitments, and we went live as soon as Booker committed yesterday. So it's always good to have a Booker on the offensive line.
Last one did pretty good.
Yeah. Like not too shabby. But how does this guy? I mean, we talked about this guy like a week ago, kind of like, hey, somebody to watch. But how do you go without any kind of recognition like that, and then all of a sudden get an offer from an Alabama. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I use the example of Mike Johnson when he was in Pensacola, and Alabama gave him a commitment. He was telling me he was going to probably go to a smaller school, and then all of a sudden you got Mike Shula gave Mike Johnson an offer, and he took it, and then all of a sudden all the offers came in. And how do these guys fly under the radar like that, Clint?
Well, it's there's a lot of high school athletes, and there's a lot more, a lot of times you relied on, and this is still the process for the most part, but you go to the high school coaches and you start asking them questions like, who are some of your top guys, and who do we need to be looking out for? And they'll kind of steer you in the right direction with Huddle and all the tape that's available for people to watch, and, all of, social media, getting in contact with people. And I mean, I can't tell you, a lot of people, someone earlier today, they reached out, DM me, and it was someone from my high school, a player. And I liked his tape. I followed him, and he reached out and said, hey, I would love to come for a visit. And it's like, hey, I'm not associated with the University of Alabama. I just cover the team, but, I'm an alumni of the school. Loved your tape. Good luck. And if I can help you, did that whole thing. But my point is that kids they're very proactive about their recruitments now. So it can be overwhelming, just all the different directions as far as where people are trying to steer you, as far as, hey, check out my tape, check out my, film, whatever. But, this is still very early in the process. And so this wasn't going to continue for Chris Booker, whether he committed to Alabama or not. I think the Alabama offer kind of put him on the radar, like, hey, this is somebody we need to get to pretty quickly and evaluate him and see where he's at. And that's normally what happens. That's why, in my opinion, the Bama bump, kind of exists. It's not that those players are being overly hyped because of their offers, but it's like, okay, before it was, hey, if Nick Saban thought this kid was worth evaluating, we haven't gotten around to him. We probably need to move him to the top of the list. And then next thing you know, they're coming in with a 4-star soon after, or whatever it ends up being, and people are thinking they're getting it, it bumped because it's Bama or whatever. I just don't think that's necessarily the case. I don't think that's how it works. But you see a lot of guys kind of fly under the radar, and I mean, Keelan Russell. A lot of people last night, I saw, Chris Booker. They listed his offer sheet outside of Alabama. It was like Mississippi State. It was like a bunch of small schools, Mississippi State and Alabama. And they were kind of laughing about that. And my point to that was, Keelan Russell in January and February of his junior year, he still had not received a Power 5 offer. And it wasn't until April that he got his first Power 5 offer, which means, Chris Booker is still just over a month away from that point in his high school career. And he finishes the number 2 player in this last cycle, according to On3, the number 1, according to others, such as Rivals. So let's not get too carried away, guys, as far as where the player's ranked, because I guarantee you he's going to be climbing pretty soon.
So it'll be interesting to see Jaryan Matthews. He's predicted to go to Alabama. You mentioned our guy Bone, amongst others. But from Gainesville High School in Georgia, 4-star edge, and he's got Alabama, Clemson, Florida State, LSU, a bunch of other schools in there. He's been to Tuscaloosa for some visits. Was at the Iron Bowl Junior Day, so he's kind of done it all. Can you name and guys, give me a thumbs up as you hang out. That means Roll Tide. So everybody on here needs to thumbs up the video. Thank you so much. Can you name the famous wrestler from Gainesville, Georgia?
I cannot.
AJ Styles.
He was from Georgia, huh?
He's from Gainesville, yeah. I know him. I met him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's a Gainesville, Georgia guy. So.
Well, the thing about it is that he's not actually from Gainesville. He's transferring for a senior year. He was actually an in-state guy.
Really?
He went to Spartman up in Huntsville.
Okay. Yeah. How about
so, that? Yeah, it's funny because we're talking about Alabama really needs to improve their in-state recruiting. And it's like, hey, they're trending well with this guy, but he moved out of state, so he's not going to count. But he grew up an Alabama fan. Great relationship with Freddie Roach. And, so even though this is not, quote unquote, an in-state guy anymore, I'm going to view him as an in-state guy because I think he's got, if he picks Alabama and he goes to Alabama as every bit as much as a player that's from the state, I think he's going to show every bit as much loyalty to the school as anybody in this current era with the NIL would do if they were from the state of Alabama.
Very interesting. It'd be fun. I love that though. Sparkman over to Gainesville, back to Tuscaloosa. There's a lot of these guys that grew up Alabama fans, and you got to use that to your advantage. You know, I mean, I'm sure a lot of these guys dreamed about playing at Alabama, and now they got the opportunity to play at Alabama, and it's like, okay, you know, can you bring them in? So this is one, but yeah, we'll see. With his, he could announce at any time. Like, we don't actually have the time, but when he does, we'll jump right on here and tell you guys about it.
Yeah, and you know, it will probably be pretty brief because we're going to go ahead and talk about him. Like, and I mean, I don't know how we'll do it, but I guess I'll refer people to this conversation if he ends up picking Bama, just so you can kind of get a feel for how we feel about him, because he's being recruited as a Bandit. I think he's a really good player. I mean, when you watch him on tape, I mean, he's already comfortable playing out of a 2-point stance, 3-point stance. Really nice inside spin move, whether that be as a counter or as a primary. Plenty of bend and juice to kind of win off the edge, but also does a really good job of attacking the B gap. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about playing Bandit, kind of what he'll be asked to do, Bandit's mostly an edge guy. And he's only 6'3", 240, so he's not overly big, but he'll continue to get bigger. He's going to continue to stack on some weight. But, saw him convert speed to power quite often. Saw him, do a lot of different things. I think he's a very juiced up, bendy edge, but also can do, he's more than that. Good run defender. I think he will be the perfect Bandit in Kane Wommack's defense should Alabama get him.
So we'll find out. I think we're going to get him. That would be 3. So 3 is a lot better than
you were
1.
complaining 2 days ago about only having 1. And then
where are you guys?
And in a matter of 8 or 9 days, it's possible that they could go from 1 to 3. I mean, they're trending really well, and this is, some of this is a little sooner than maybe I was expecting, but I still think summer is where you're going to see a bulk.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's change gears here. I fell into a trap today, and I sent you this. I just want to look at it here. Where's my Clint? Yeah, here it is. It was from a fake account. It was Kalen DeBoer confirms that Alabama will not hold a spring game this year. Staff says the staff plans on using the extra time for more corporate style team building exercise, right? And I mean, look, I should have known, right? But here's the thing that fooled me about it is that Texas really did get rid of their spring game. And basically, what Steve Sarkisian said was, hey, we played all these extra games in the playoff and this and that. We're just going to do more like skill stuff. And we got guys that are going into the combine and the NFL draft, and we can do more of that kind of stuff. I don't think that would fly with our fans. I mean, the 8A game we love it.
I think the city of Tuscaloosa needs the 8A game, the influx of money more than Austin, Texas does. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, Nebraska has already canceled theirs as well. I think a couple of others have maybe not as big of programs maybe have followed suit. This is something that's probably going to become more common because of the NIL era. And a lot of people's argument, what Steve Sarkisian said didn't make any sense. It's like a spring game. You can do that however you want to, but you're not putting a ton of, a huge workload on like your first team guys, because you're going to be seeing all the way down to the walk-ons in some instances. Right. So it would just be a chance for some of those younger guys and stuff who you don't have to worry about just went through a quote unquote long physical season or will have a long physical season coming up, and it's like months apart. So like, I mean, that's excuse making. It's NIL related. They don't want to put anything on tape, have ESPN there filming their spring game, putting reps on tape for a player who maybe, and if you look at Steve Sarkisian, he never really released depth charts last year. Yeah. I mean, and the second you release a depth chart at somewhere like Texas, guys are going to be gone. Really? So they kind of know where they stand. I guess it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out I'm the 4th guy coming in at this position. I guess I'm 4th string. But if it's never officially labeled that, then you don't have outside pressures. You don't have parents saying, hey, you're 4th string where you don't have agents, potential agents who are reaching out to you and saying, hey, there's some schools out here that love what you did on A-Day, and, they got you listed as 4th on the depth chart. We can get you somewhere where you're 1st or 2nd on the depth chart. You don't have that as much, and that's what they're trying to avoid, but it didn't make it. I mean, I don't like the idea of canceling spring games. If you're going to do that, I guess just when the portal window's closed, I guess just go full NFL at this point. Have preseason games, start a month early as far as preseason, but I think it's good for the development of some of those young guys in an environment especially like Alabama provides, where it's, 40, 50, 60, sometimes even a full stadium. Obviously the electricity and stuff's not going to be like a typical game day atmosphere, but it's more pressure. I think those are valuable reps. They shouldn't get away from it.
I'm really interesting looking at it like that. I never even thought about they're worried about transfer portal and stuff like that. I kind of took him at his word, but yeah, it makes sense. I mean, Saban we talked about this yesterday. He was always really concerned about who thought they were where on the depth chart, and, and kind of that vibe that, well, we don't really have a depth chart here. I remember I was doing high school football, broadcasting county high games. And then remember, Saban didn't want to give out the depth chart. So then all the high school coaches didn't want to give out the depth chart. It's like when you're the play-by-play guy, it's like, look, man, I need the depth chart here.
Yeah. I got to know who's out there.
Saban did, all the other coaches just followed. Except, what's the guy's name at Mountain Brook? Coach Yeager. He's awesome. He'd give me the depth chart. You play Mountain Brook, he didn't care, So he was probably my favorite coach outside of Coach Higginbotham. And Lee Gibson, who was his offensive coordinator. They were at County High. I love them too, but just funny, like how they wouldn't give you the depth chart because Saban decided he didn't want to give.
That's the kind of pull that Nick Saban had, by the way. I just want to point that out.
That's stroke. Call that stroke, guys. Like, subscribe, thumbs up as you hang out with us here on Cover Crimson. Get in the comments section so we talk Alabama football today.
Desmond James, I was looking up, I was trying to remember his name. He was a freshman receiver for Arkansas, didn't play all year. They get into that bowl game against Texas Tech. They decide we like this kid for the future. It's not going to, obviously you could have, went ahead and started playing him before the bowl game, but the bowl game doesn't count towards eligibility and all that stuff. And so they're like, okay. And so he had 3 catches for 137 yards and a touchdown. So he has a, quote unquote, a breakout game. Arkansas finally puts him out there on display. Next thing you know, when the transfer portal opens up, he's entering it, and now he's at Cal. So they set on him. I talked to somebody that was kind of closer to the program. They really liked him. They really liked what he was going to be in the future, and they sat on him pretty much all year. And they thought, what, let's give him some opportunities in the bowl game. Just so happened they drew some stuff up. He made some big time plays, put it on display, and next thing you know, he's gone. And that's exactly what coaches are worried about in the A-Day game.
Really?
What I will say, Ajayi Hall would have been gone like that. A lot of guys, Christian Leary was a guy who went off in the A-Day game. You would have had them getting some big time suitors. And if they're playing second team, whether it be offense or defense, and they have a massive game and people start filling their heads with stuff, you'll have other places start to pursue, and you'll have them thinking, okay, I'm ready. Like Ajayi Hall probably would have thought, yeah, I'm ready to rock and roll. I just dominated this A-Day game, despite the fact that he wasn't going against the first team defense. And he probably could have been convinced to make a poor decision that he eventually had to make anyways.
Wow, that's so crazy, man. So this might be the death of the A-Day game. I thought maybe they would turn this into, we might play, like a scrimmage game. Like maybe we play, somebody that like Florida State or, Georgia Tech or somebody, just to have a game or both. It's a real game, but it's not a real game, But that would even be more the same.
It would be even worse. Yeah, because, guys are going to, it's more of a game-like situation, even if you handle it like NFL teams early in training camp, they'll get together and practice, and then they typically play each other in a game, that weekend. But even if it was set up like the practices are the joint practices, you would have everybody and their brother trying to get as much information from those as possible. And when you've got another team involved, how many Connor Stallions are out there where it's like, hey, big school, let's say you hypothetically you got UNA to come play Alabama or practice against Alabama and put some reps against somebody else. And is there someone on UNA's staff, a lower tiered guy who would be willing to take a payment to give information on guys? I'm not saying it doesn't even exist yet, but I'm saying Connor Stallions was willing to do a lot for Michigan. People would do a lot for money. You would have that kind of stuff I feel like it would be pretty commonplace. So that's the concern. I don't like that we're getting to a point with college football where you're so concerned about that you're willing to cancel spring games. If you only had one transfer portal window, that would resolve a lot of that because you would be through that for the year. So you could put guys on display and, they wouldn't be able to go anywhere. But I don't know if they're going to end up changing that or not.
So USC now has canceled their spring game.
If you want to call what they had a spring game anyways.
Yeah, right. It's funny though.
Ole Miss. I don't think Ole Miss is doing one.
Good God.
Yeah,
like
Kiffin
spring game. Yeah.
The people who are now, and I want to put this. I'm not saying Nebraska, but Kiffin and Ole Miss, Steve Sarkisian in Texas with all that money. The programs who are the ones who are trying to do the poaching the most, the ones that are like, we don't want to give anybody else anything to come take ours. Do think that's interesting. I don't know if it'll happen I don't think it's happening this year. I'll tell you that, but even for the future, I don't know that would be with the way that Kalen DeBoer handles it anyways. It's not really a game-like situation anyways, or at least not to the degree that it was under Nick Saban. Still putting stuff on tape though, but they keep it vanilla. I don't know. I don't think Alabama's doing anything with it for a while.
Yeah. All right. Well, when that recruit job drops, we'll be on there. Good to see you, David Sprinkle, Roll Tide, my man. Yeah. When he announces, we'll be on here with him. Bama basketball with a big game on Saturday, Clint, and they need a bounce back game. I felt like this team is really good. It's 5:00, 6:00 Eastern against Kentucky in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. Second time these two teams have played. I don't want to say it's a must win for Alabama, but it really does feel like Bama needs a win to kind of right the ship a little bit after back-to-back losses. But the thing that has always concerned me about this team is, and I know they're talented, but I feel like the margin of error is so small, like they have to take care of business. And if they don't play good enough defense or they don't hit enough shots against good teams, they're not going to win, and they lost to Oregon that way. They lost at Purdue, which, that's a tough place. I mean, it's a top 10 team. And then the Ole Miss game was kind of the worst loss of the year. And then these back-to-back losses, it's like they played okay, but they didn't play good enough. And I'm like, what do we have here? What are we looking at with this team? I know there's some injuries, but there's a lot of depth. And I guess we'll kind of find out if they're able to figure it out on Saturday.
Well, and I'm not the first person to point this out. Others have pointed it out too, but Alabama struggled down the stretch last year too. They lost like 4 of their last 6 games before the tournament, including, twice to Florida in a 3-game span. And both of those, one of them was an 18-point loss and then a 14-point loss. And they lost by 7 to Tennessee at home. Lost, a couple of games before that. What was that? Yeah, 23 points to Kentucky. So it's not like this is unfamiliar, but you do need to start showing some signs of life. Obviously, when things really start to matter, the SEC tournament and March Madness. But you want to see some fight. I think the good part about it is despite the fact that I think throughout some of these games, like the effort level hasn't been where it needed to be, their willingness to really try to fight when it gets out of hand and it really starts being crunch time, I think that's encouraging, I guess. But it's time to start making some things happen.
So that'll happen on Saturday. All right. Well, anything else you want to get into on today's show this Friday? No. Fair. Thank you guys. Larry Large, good to see you, man. Roll Tide. Brock says we lost Latrell. I know that's a tough one, but Roll Tide right back at you. And then Brian, we appreciate you, man. And we're becoming consistent now. Every day at noon, lunch with Clint and his friend Mick.
Oh, lunch with Lamb, lunch with we can come up with no. I like the lunch with Mick. Lunch with the boys. We'll just call it that. That's all this is. Jermaine, I mean, yeah, we were talking football for about the first 15, 20 minutes. I like how Mick kind of redirected it a little bit, because if you would have let me go, I would have just went ahead and just talked about everything with Jaryan Matthews, and there wouldn't be much to talk about later if Alabama ends up landing him. And if they don't land him, there's no point in having the conversation anyways. So I kind of like that fact. We'll dive way more into it, and we could be on here in 10 minutes, or we could be on here in a few hours. But you also got something going on a little bit later, don't you, Mick?
Yeah, look, if it's after 4, apparently we're going to have we'll do Elephant in the Room live, maybe live, kind of with
to be live.
Jake Coker, and he says he's bringing Shank today. So bring him. I can't wait to see Shank, the Shankster. I haven't seen him in a while.
Ask him about the basketball team and how they're doing.
I will.
I guarantee you he'll have some opinions. He's a very opinionated guy, and I love it.
Yeah.
He seems like one of them, and I always heard this when he played too. He was one of the funnest players on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, thanks for being here. Don't forget mybookie.ag, promo code next round, double your initial deposit. March Madness is coming. So, yeah, you guys know that with March Madness coming, you're going to want that basketball talk. You're not there yet, Bama fans, but you will be. Hey, I do want to, I'm going to let one more before we close it out, Clint. This is a good question. Do y'all think the deal with Fox Nation will help with getting more money for the program? That's that show. You were talking about it the other day. Great question, King. And I know I saw where you called me Clint Gillispie again. I know the real Clint Gillispie. He's in Houston.
I wonder what Clint Gillispie would think.
I don't know if there's a Mick Lamb out there, but I know there's a Clint Gillispie.
Mick Lamb, that sounds pretty badass if I'm speaking candidly. That's a good question. It's possible. I guarantee you Alabama's getting something for it. I don't know if it's going into the NIL. It would make sense for that to be kind of where it's directed now. But I mean, yeah, I think that the more that you can kind of what you're doing is you're exchanging post, after the fact access. Like if it was during and it was like a Hard Knocks where it's happening kind of not in real time, but kind of in real time where you're getting an episode weekly right before the season. Like, I don't think anybody's ever going to do anything like that because, everybody's trying to get an advantage, but this all coming out way after the fact. Sure. I think more schools are participating in that sort of thing, but for Alabama, the reason that this was such a big deal, and I guarantee you it probably did get them a pretty decent payday, is greatest college football coach of all time retires. That's not going to come around every day. So a lot of things to kind of focus on as that transition happened. You won't have to worry about that moving forward.
I just, to be honest with you, had no clue that there was a Fox Nation. I never heard of it before.
Yeah.
I went and found out that it's not part of my TV package, so maybe they finally found Fox Nation some decent coverage, put something on there that people watch, unless maybe you guys watch Fox Nation. I've watched Fox News, I've watched Fox Sports, but I've never watched Fox Nation before. But the show looks pretty good. Like, it's a pretty good little deal.
Yeah, it's pretty well done. I kind of wish they kind of had like sit down interviews with people. Like, you'll hear them kind of commentating in the background. But it would be nice to like cut away and they're actually interviewing a player or a coach and asking them specific questions, maybe about what was going on or what's going through their mind. Maybe that's too much access because you might get someone saying the wrong thing. I don't know. But AK, I know that you said that you were handling it. Hey, I'll just get that 1 week free trial once all the episodes come out and I'll watch it all. See, I sign myself up now because we're covering it, little bit different, but
right on.
Yeah, I'm going to end up spending about, I don't know, $10, $15. I don't know how long it's going to last. I think 6 episodes, but
what else is on there? Anything? I mean, is there anything else on there? Like,
I was so frustrated with Fox Nation by the time I got it working because like I ended up, it said, do you want to use your TV provider? I did. And then I connected to YouTube and there's like your YouTube package didn't allow for that. So I'm trying to get on my YouTube package to add it. I add it, but then it was still locked on my TV. Can't figure out what's going on. Finally, I log out. I say, screw it. I go and I sign up for it individually. And it just, but when I was trying to log out of the Fox Nation app, first of all, it kept freezing and wouldn't let me go anywhere when I get on there. It was just not great experience. It was about probably an hour and a half before EG and I recorded. And I was like, I really need to watch this, you know? Right. And I was not saying nice things about Fox Nation until I finally got it to work. But now that we're here, I will keep it for a couple of weeks. But AK's being smart. He's waiting until it's all out. He can binge it for free with that free trial. He's getting out of there. I don't blame him.
What's the when does it drop? When do the new shows, or does it air like a TV show?
Wednesday, but I think it was like Wednesday, I don't know exactly what time. I watched it around, I don't know, 10-ish maybe. But
I mean, it's like it's not like, hey, this comes on at like 7:00 at night on Tuesday.
Right. It's like Wednesday, I believe. They released a new episode, but I didn't go and check to see when that episode dropped. I actually wouldn't. I saw it the night before, and I actually not looked into it, but I watched the trailer and did all that stuff. I didn't realize that, for some odd reason, I guess I missed it. It was coming out like the next day. I thought it was coming out soon.
Right.
So I was a little bit surprised. I didn't even know that this was coming out. I had no idea, but it's pretty cool to see. And with a guy like Ryan Williams being kind of a focal point, Jalen Milroe's gone. He's been a big part of it, but DeMarcus Shepard's still around. Ryan Williams is still around. It's making for pretty good conversation.
I'm looking at looks like they got a Cheers show here with John Belushi. Let me share this screen with everybody. I don't think it'll matter. Just because it's funny.
Just stream it to everybody on our channel. The first episode.
I'm just
let's get this
on here. But I recognize like Dan Aykroyd and the guys and Kevin Nealon and Belushi. And what's the guy's name on the side with the J cup? I know him too. But
I know him too. But I couldn't tell you. I'm terrible with names. Great with faces, bad with names.
Yeah. I see Hannity on there. So I recognize some of these cats, but this wasn't anything that oh, and look, Kevin Costner, roll him down. Yeah, this would not have been a channel. I would have been like, oh, I gotta have this, But then you put Bama on there, and then of course, we all are suckers for it. I mean, look, I think I
guess that kind of tells you
he's gonna get it for $10.
If you give in, I can't blame you either. But I mean, I guess this kind of tells you how big of a deal Nick Saban's retirement was, because this wasn't like ESPN or somebody wanting to do like a documentary. This was like someone that never really be too much in the sports sphere, who's like, hey, this is a massive deal. We got to go cover post Nick Saban. When you got it going on Fox Nation, I just, in a million years, you could have given me 1,000 guesses and that wouldn't have been in the top 1,000.
Yeah. We'll watch it. Good show. And I'll tell you, Kalen DeBoer is one of these guys that he's going to give access, man. I mean, he is the exact opposite of Nick Saban when it comes
until we abuse it. At some point, we will probably cross the line and get that taken away from us. Just know that if it happens, guys, it's our fault. Not our fault, mine and Mick's, but some people in the media's.
Yeah. Well, thank you, guys. Good to see you, Judy. Thank all of you guys for being on here. Roll Tide, everybody. Thumbs up when there's a commitment. When that's going to happen, we'll jump back on and then look for Elephant in the Room with the famous championship quarterback Jake Coker and my favorite offensive lineman on Twitter, the Shankster. So we'll be should be on later today. But Roll Tide, everybody. Thanks for hanging. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, and we'll talk to you on covercrimson.com. Sign up right now, $25 off the annual. Roll Tide.